everybody. My name is Wyatt Anderson. Today we're going to start with episode 0 of the new YouTube series, Wrenching with Wyatt. Just kind of a little background to what I do. I'm a diesel technician by trade, but slinging wrenches is my hobby. Bought myself a project car here, 97 Mustang Cobra. Bought it as a roller, no engine, no transmission, wiring harness has been stripped out of it, well, in the engine bay at least. So, we'll see how it goes. Figured I'd give some of you guys a tour of the car. Nothing fancy, just a 90s vintage Mustang. Don't know if you guys can tell, it's got leather seats, needs a little cleaning. There's some mildew and buildup on the seats, it's kinda ugly. But otherwise, it's all there interior-wise. I've got the kick panel over there. The car itself is okay. Paint has a little to be desired. Someone has repainted this at some point in the car's past. I don't know if you'll be able to tell here. But got one color here, one color here. Bumper's all messed up, and if you look at the car in the right lighting, it's about 3 different shades of white. So we will see what's going to happen here. This is base operations here. I guess you could say humble beginnings. I've never been one to have a giant shop to work out of. I've always liked working on smaller areas, kind of keep myself organized. We don't talk about what's in here currently. Got back from probably a 6-hour road trip yesterday, picking the car up. So I just kind of unloaded everything in here, and I've got another car that I've been working on as a project, but that's a story for another day. Like I said, the car came as a roller, no engine and transmission. I guess I should have specified there's no engine and transmission in it. It came with T45 transmission. I don't know the condition of it. It'll probably just go in and I'll drive it and see how it acts. Came with the 32 valve 4.6. It was completely disassembled. The block has got some issues. I don't know that I'm going to be able to save it. It'll probably just get turned into a coffee table or scrap weight. So what I'm going to start with this morning, organizing my garage, and then I'll get back to you guys. Well, with most of the random hoopla out of the garage, I guess I can start bringing in some of the stuff from the car, laying it out, getting an assessment of what I have, what I need, and what I need to do. I know for a fact the engine block, probably trashed. I know I've mentioned that already. I noticed I'm missing the vacuum harness. I think I'm missing a few small wiring harnesses, which I know I can make and or purchase used, so those do not concern me. Oh, look at the pile of parts sitting right beside the camera here. I think those are the big things that I'm aware of that I am missing. And as one of the things you can do on a project like this, lay everything you got out, make a list of things you know you have, make a list of things you think you're going to need, and then just kind of start setting up a budget. I know where I'm set up in this car price-wise. I'd like to look to get into it around maybe 2 times to 3 times of what I've got in the car, so I can sell it when I'm done with it and still make a decent profit. That is the one thing a lot of people do not do in a project like this, is they don't set themselves a budget, or they don't lay things out and figure out what they need, and it's always a disheveled mess. It's never good, it always turns out bad. I've been there, I've done it, and you don't make any money, or you hate the project the entire time. So I'll get back to you after I start bringing stuff in. I'll kind of give you a quick rundown of what I know I have, and then I'll kind of show you what I personally do when I lay things out, and it changes from project to project on me depending on what I've got for room. So we'll go from there. See you in a bit. So I've got heads, intake manifold, block, timing cover, and all that stuff laid out. I mean, you guys can see what I got here. While I was going through this, when we were loading the truck up, we were just throwing parts in, really weren't paying attention to what all was there. I was making a mental note of, did I grab this, did I grab this, did I grab this? So anyways, a lot of bolts and stuff got thrown in these valve covers. And I don't know if you guys can see that very well. Let me try getting it to focus for you. Sorry about the camera noise. These bolts were in those valve covers. And sometimes it pays to know what you're working on. If I am thinking correctly, these bolts are for the cam caps on those cylinder heads. Those little fellers right there that hold those cams in. Now, one of them is really small, and if you can't tell, it's broken. So that's stuff you guys gotta pay attention to when you start in on projects like this, especially when you pick up someone else's abandoned project. I mean, it may not even be for these heads. The guy said he had other Mustang stuff laying around at one point in time. I know for a fact I'm already missing an oil cooler, and what else was there? There's an oil cooler, and I think one of the timing gears for the 93 to 98 timing set, which is not a terrible big deal. I mean, you can buy those aftermarket, or you can run them without. It's just pay attention to what you got. Going through some of this other stuff, excuse the dirty bench here, I mean, it's one of those, I am just getting a catalog of what I've got. I have got like 1, 2, 3 timing arms. Oh, no, there are 4 there. There are 4 here. And then I've got a backing guide. I have got 4 of the swing arms, but I'm missing some of the other stuff. I did notice when we were picking this stuff up, a guy had parts of a complete timing kit laying around, and there was a box of a brand new timing set for this. Now, I noted it was a lower quality timing kit. I'll show you some stuff that's modular related here in a little bit, but I'm not impressed with it. Depending on what I do for the engine situation is dependent on the timing chains as well, or the timing kit, let me put it like that. So I am not terribly worried about that stuff right now. That's all serviceable stuff you can still buy in the aftermarket. Another thing I was glad the guy did when we were doing this is he bagged the majority of his nuts and bolts. I mean, I know for a fact that that's some of the front timing set. That looks to be, top end and or miscellaneous hold down bolts. Those are valve cover bolts. Those are some more valve cover bolts. I mean, it's nothing really to worry about. So yeah, I'll get back to you guys here in a little bit. Alright, we're back again. So, got my harnesses laid out. I know what harnesses I'm missing. I believe I am missing a vacuum harness, which I believe I've already mentioned. And then there's a harness in here that has been cut that I know I'll have to repair, so I'm not terribly worried there. Transmission, I've got the drive shaft elsewhere. I just don't want that big clunky thing in the way. The AC system. So many times I see people and they pull engines out of these cars, they don't know how to do it properly, my bad. And they'll cut it. Don't cut it, guys. There are literal bolts and fasteners. Those quick disconnects right there. Yes, it'll focus. Those quick disconnects right there, they pull out just like your fuel lines. You just have to take it to a shop and get your refrigerant drained beforehand. So it's not a terrible big issue to pull these AC systems apart, guys. They're all there, all the switches and sensors and pressure sensors are there, so that's good. And then here's a big one. Oh, here we go. Here's a big one. All the emission stuff for the engine is here. So many times on these older cars, the emission stuff is gone. No idea where it went. It was taken off by the previous owner. We're in 2021 here. The EPA is cracking down on stuff like this. This stuff is like gold to some people. I can't say it's gold to me, but I also know it saves me a couple $100 not having to go buy these switching valves, EGR tubes, and stuff like that. Because it would not surprise me if at some point in the future we start seeing mandated emissions checks by each state. And that makes me sad as a car guy, but it's the world we're living in today. I can't change it. call your legislators. That's an RPM thing. I could get into that, but we're not going to. I'm not going to get political on you guys. Came with the hydraulic, wow, I forgot how to talk today. Came with the Hydro Boost and lines. I'm not terribly worried about all of that stuff not being there. I bought another car earlier this year, or late last fall, that came with a lot of this stuff, so I've got spares for stuff like that. Sometimes it pays to be a hoarder. Transmission, I don't know the condition on the inside of it. I believe I've already mentioned that as well. It'll be one of those, I'll pull it apart, or not pull it apart, but take it, clean the bell housing out, verify the input shaft doesn't have any excessive play, and then we'll go from there. I've got the shifter, it's in the car, along with a few other miscellaneous things. It's got the wiring harness on it, along with the speed sensor, and even the O2 extension, so I'm good with that. And then, yeah, it's just good to sit everything out and make a list of what you need and what you got. Makes the whole project a little smoother, so that you know what you got to do. So now, we can go over to the car and figure out what else we're going to need. So into the car now. We're obviously looking through it. We're missing some trim pieces, but I believe the shift boot is down there. The steering wheel's good condition. I noticed that it's got kind of an ugly stereo system. I hope it works. It's not a factory stereo. Like I said, it's also going to need a cleaning. I don't know if you guys can see. Yeah, yummy. Mildew. She sat in a damp environment for a little bit, so it's not pretty. The leather on the seats is actually in pretty darn good condition given the age and miles. It's not all tore up, it's just cracked and showing its age a little bit. All the pedals are there. I was in the engine bay here earlier. I'm not going to do that right now because I don't have a prop rod for it. But it is missing the prop rod, obviously. And I think the clutch cable and clutch cable assembly where it connects to the pedals is missing, which I am not terribly worried about because I think I've got a spare one laying around out of a car I parted out in the past. It's just good to go through and kind of see what you need. I don't really think the interior of this car needs a whole lot. I did note when I purchased this car and was loading it on the trailer, it had welded in subframe connectors, had aftermarket upper and lower control arms in the rear axle or on the rear axle. It had newer shocks, it's got big old tires on it, and it's got aftermarket wheels. So we should make out pretty alright, even if I don't put money into fixing this car. I fully intend to because of you guys. So hopefully we can get that taken care of. Alright, so now that I got the car moved over here, use the old pick 'em up truck to pull her over. Figure might as well try cleaning it up a little bit. You know, gonna be kind of waiting for parts. I may clean some parts up after I clean the car up, so figure we'll get started on that. I'll pop the hood and I'll spray the engine bay down with something, kind of break up some of the grease, and I've got a pressure washer and I'll wash her up. I'm not impressed with the way it cleaned up, but I'm not going to be working through grease. My hands will stay clean. Paint stained a little bit from all the grime and whatnot from years of use. Could probably clean it up if I wanted to go through with a brush and hand wash it all. But I personally am not that worried about it. The engine's going to cover up most of the nasty looking stuff. So I'll take you guys off the stand and show you what I got here. And I apologize ahead of time. It's pretty windy out there. I don't know if you can see, it did clean up quite a bit. Got some of that staining off, or not staining, but some of the grease off. But at this point, it's just all staining on that white paint. Nothing's gonna hurt the paint at all. It's just grime. So at this point, I'm gonna probably put the cowl on, maybe put the windshield wipers and whatnot on. Probably gonna try pulling what wiring harnesses are stuffed in the fender liner from when the guy pulled the car apart back into the engine bay. Just kind of get everything laid back out the way it should be. And we'll go from there. Alright, so after some learning curves and finding this cowl was in not as good condition as I thought it was. It's got some broken clips underneath of it. Got her squeezed in, Everything looks to be fit and flush and happy. I did not have all the screws like I anticipated, but that's not a big issue currently. I figure a trip to the junkyard will help with that. So now I'm going to take and pull the wiring harness out from that area behind the fender well. I'll unwrap that, put the bracket back there, and start getting her laid out. Be back in a couple moments, guys. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I'll get my dang shadow out of the way here. I was able to put the wiring harness in here on the passenger side. I was able to get the fuse box and whatnot in. I ended up pulling the clutch cable out because I think it's a factory clutch cable. And the condition of the clutch that I was given is kind of subpar, so I'll probably get a new clutch when I go back together with it. So with doing a new clutch, I'm probably going to need a new cable, aftermarket cable adjuster, so on and so forth, because these factory clutch quadrants are plastic and garbage. Oh, what else we got in here? I did pull out, there was power steering pump and power steering reservoir laying in here. I just got it out of the way for now. It's going to need a new hose and whatnot, so I'm not terribly worried about that. Just trying to get everything all cleaned up, ready to go here for when I get the engine and trans ready. So ladies and gentlemen, that's probably going to be the first episode of Wrenching with Wyatt. Like I said, this is my first intro to YouTube, really, as a whole thing. So I apologize, things may be a little choppy. I'm still learning as I go here. Hopefully the editing goes well. You guys will know before, well, you guys won't know before I do, but you guys will notice in the video, I say a lot. Any constructive criticism would be greatly appreciated. I know there's going to be some people that are going to give me a hard time. I get it. It's the way it is. I'm excited to go on with this adventure. Hopefully I get better as time goes along. Maybe things get a little easier, a little smoother. Parts pile gets a little smaller. Going to be looking forward to doing more as I go. I'm really excited to show you guys what I do. I mean, this is a hobby. I'm a diesel technician for the day, then I come home and turn wrenches some more at night. So this is just extraneous stuff that I do. This is going to be more of a hobbyist take on things with a professional attitude on parts and allocation, or not necessarily parts allocation, but just how to go through and deal with things. I'm running a hobbyist style set of tools. I'm going to try staying away from electric power tools. I may bring some stuff home occasionally here and there, but it's going to be set up as if a hobbyist was doing this. Because I want it to be as palatable for everyone out there as possible. I don't want to be the guy who comes in and flex, oh, he's got Snap-on and he's got this. No, I've got my great-grandfather's old Remline toolbox loaded with Harbor Freight tools my grandfather used, my father used, and the tools I learned how to wrench with. So I thank y'all for watching. Catch you later.